Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
California. What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, October 13th. The LA Galaxy getting ready for their first home playoff game since 2016, and we are here to get you ready for it. The LA Galaxy facing off against Nashville, 12 p.m. on Saturday, October 15th. Galaxy kicking off at 12:08 p.m., and we have an addition on the TV side of things we're going to talk to you about as well. We're going to get you through, some of the other things that are laying around, some of the MVP finalists. One of those happens to be on the LA Galaxy. We're going to talk about some other things, including attendance, and then eventually get you and work you to that game against Nashville. To help me do all of that, he's back with us. I think this is 3 weeks in a row. It might be a new personal record. He's back. It's the Portuguese Hammer himself, Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
Playoffs. We did it. We're in the playoffs.
Yeah, are you surprised?
I mean, we did that last week.
Yeah, are you surprised?
I'm happy that we have a home game. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with Houston, our history with Houston, decision day. You never knew how that was gonna go, but to have a home game, to be in the mix, it's really an exciting time, and I'm super stoked, happy for everyone to be able to get out there. Noon game, early start, so I see people in the chat saying they'll be there at 7:30. So it's exciting times, and the funny thing is, I've been with COG now about 5 years, or 4 or 5 years, somewhere in that neighborhood.
It seems like just yesterday, doesn't it?
You know how many playoff runs I've seen?
How many?
One playoff run. So as a member of Corner of the Galaxy, so it's one of those things. This could be a nice kind of tradition. Instead of figuring out our off-season moves once the season is over, we can actually talk about games still yet to be played. So super excited. Everyone in the chat's ready to go. You're ready to go. You almost forgot your name at the beginning. That's how exciting.
I did. Well, yeah. I wanted to say like special playoff edition, and then I was like, no, it doesn't really fit. Like you have to force it in there, and so I changed my mind. I would also like to point out I've had a sick kid for like a week. I am running on absolute fumes. If I make it to the game at 12 p.m. on Saturday, it will be a minor miracle, especially if I don't get like sick before then. So that's one thing that's sort of going on.
Yeah,
I'm also, I should say, just to give everybody a warning, I am watching my kid right now because my wife is off picking up my oldest from the airport, right? So I am watching him. So should he wake up and need assistance, it's going to be the Portuguese Hammer Show for as long as that takes.
I'm extremely nervous. I'm a co-host. I'm not supposed to be solo on these things. So, but I've been there in the situation you're at. Fortunately, knock on wood. Now we're saying it. We're jinxing it. It's the announcer's curse. It's one of those things where I've had wife traveling and things happening where I was like, it's luck of the draw. If I get a little guy coming in here with a blanket, we'll do it live. We'll make it work.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
We'll see how it works. I'm ready to go. You've prepped me. Having a sick kid is the worst. Anyone out there who's gone through it, just watching your child be miserable and be helpless.
Oh.
It's awful. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst thing. And then of course, when you get the leftover sickness, that just adds the insult to injury. So should make the halftime meetup a lot of fun with you with the
exactly
hacking and gagging.
You want me to come closer?
Why don't you lean in for the picture here?
Yeah, exactly. I think I like some of the I like some of the people on the Discord are saying just throw him up on the camera and then we'll all watch him while we're doing the show, and then that's not a problem. Everybody, the chat room can be like, hey, he's moving. That I think that's great. Next
Split
time,
screen, little corner screen. Yeah, I like
next time we're gonna put him in there for sure, 100%. So let's get to a couple super chats before we break into anything. $2 super chat from Aaron. If we rebrand, odds of becoming the LA Dachshunds.
I love it. That's the only rebrand that I'll get behind. And we're in October. It's Dotson season, so they have the weenie dog races everywhere right now. So haven't entered my boys yet, but I think they're ready. I think they might be able to. I'm gonna see if I can get at least one cup in the Hammer household with one of our Doxies running around there.
They have the Kevin Cabral speed. Is what you're saying?
Well, one of them does.
Okay,
yeah, the other one's like I couldn't care less. He doesn't want to. But there's one. If you throw that toy or you hold the little squeaky toy and he's all over it. So I think I can put my eggs in that basket.
Okay. Very good. I like it. $20 super chat from Kyle. Kyle, thank you.
Kyle,
appreciate that.
Jumping in big.
Kyle just says, thanks, Josh, which, I mean, if you're going to tip me $20 and make me feel dirty, if you say thanks, Josh, that's all I need.
What'd you do?
Appreciate that. Yeah. I don't you want to know? Galaxy get by Houston. I know we talked about it on Monday. I'd just give you a chance to sort of talk about it. I mean, again, I like to get differing perspectives on it. I went back and watched the highlights of that game again today a couple different times just to sort of, again, try to get the feel for what's going on, because everything is going on right now. If you're paying attention around the league, they're trying to handicap this race, right? These last, 14 teams that are in this, and they're trying to figure out who's going to come out on top. And there's some really interesting just takes on everything, and the best is that 538 basically says that there's like a 53% chance that both LAFC and Philadelphia will like meet in the final.
Yeah,
which everybody should sit there and say that's never going to happen. So something's definitely going to happen. Just what's going to happen, right?
Well, it's why you play the games, and I think 538, which we always have that segment at the end, and people always jumping in the chat, oh, that's not accurate. And I think they get a bad rep for some of their political predictions that maybe didn't pan out. But in general, 538 is pretty spot on. I think earlier in the season, they had the Galaxy somewhere around fourth in the West, and we were like, man, that does not match what we're seeing. And then come to find out at the very end of the season, that ends up where they land. And we always referenced last year, they always had NYC at the top, and we're like, how did they keep ending up there, and they're up at the top anyway? So it usually works out. But we do know, kind of the recent curse of the Shield as of late, and so that usually doesn't happen. And then there's always wacky stuff, especially with the single elimination playoff games. It's anyone's race. But going back to the Houston game, it's kind of a funny game because I like I was mentioning earlier, I felt nervous just knowing the history with Houston, knowing it's decision day, knowing you can be as high as third and as low as 7. It's like anything could really happen. And it started off well for the Galaxy, and then Houston capitalized on their one chance that they had. And so it was outside of that goal. It was a pretty complete and dominant performance from the Galaxy, and it was just a matter of time before the goals came. And one of the things before, obviously, the Puig and Brugman additions, I always said, this is a counter-attacking team. You need to kind of sit back, and if a team scored a goal on us, we were never going to be able to break a team down. But since the addition of both Puig and Brugman, I feel more comfortable watching this team have possession and break another team down and have confidence that the goals are eventually going to come. And as I was watching that game, I was like, the goals are going to come. They're dominating this game. One of the things that I like to look at on the MLS website when they break down the possession is the 5-minute intervals. And throughout almost all of the 90 minutes, the Galaxy owned every single 5-minute interval except for between the 5th and the 10th minute, which is when Houston scored. But every other interval outside of that, it was all LA Galaxy, 66% possession. So they really just had total control of that game. And then when the goals came, they had a little mini goal explosion, and then Dayon came out at the end and kind of iced the game. So another thing that I just want to kind of shout out, I'm going to border on having too much dip on my chip here, but I know we like to make fun and say the guaranteed to be wrong predictions, and but even the best analysts get it wrong sometime. But we're actually not too bad at what we do, because my notes from last week said Vani had the sub wrong. If you brought in Efrain and Dayon and Cabral closer to the 70th minute, that gives them some time to gel, and then some things happen. What happens? Efrain and Dayon come in the 66th minute, goal in the 69th minute. And then, of course, he had the watch there, which it was playoff time. It had nothing to do with it being, the amount of minutes that he was getting or how quick he was at scoring that goal. I'm sure it was strictly playoff time.
Playoff time. That's what he said. Just playoff time. He said, smiling out of both sides of his mouth. Just like the biggest, most mischievous smile. If Dayon was your kid, he would constantly be like, I didn't light the barn on fire, and you're like,
I have one of those. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my son.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I
Yeah,
absolutely have one of those guys. So Dayon is my son in that regard. But it felt good also to see Dayon get his mojo back. It was his first goal since August 19th. So again, even though he had a great season and contributed a lot of goals, he was, for lack of a better term, in a cold streak just because he hadn't scored a lot. But it was also from lack of minutes. You know, when you put him in, give him more time to gel. Not that he needed that much time, but he was able to make that impact. So he's getting his mojo back. Ricky, of course, had a great game. Gaston, probably, like I think you mentioned on Monday, had probably his best game in a Galaxy shirt.
For sure.
Costa's feeling himself right now. Chicharito's feeling himself. We're peaking at the right time. We're all peaking at the right time.
Should we make a shirt that says we're peaking at the right time, or like it should be like peaking? Like there should be something in there that
now,
that's
like
a you shirt.
now,
Yeah, peaking now. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's crazy.
So I walked away pretty happy with it, even though you had those nervy moments. And it's funny because they let in the first goal and you're like, oh, here we go again. But it was a total domination. If you go back and watch that game, the Galaxy were never really in trouble. They just had that mental lapse for that short moment, but they were in control of that entire game, which feels great. You look at their record over the last 11, only lost one game in their last 11. You have to feel good going into the playoffs and seeing how other teams fared. And, we run into this issue where we get a little too excited, but I really liked what I saw against Houston, even with the mental mistake, which, again, par for the course for this LA Galaxy team. They're going to allow a goal in a game. And so it's just a matter of, are you going to be able to score? Are you going to be able to lose your focus? Because I think we saw that with Real Salt Lake. When they missed the penalty, you can tell they were mentally kind of shaken.
They were rattled, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So when they let the goal in from Houston, they didn't let that shake them. They just got right back to business and eventually broke Houston down to get that goal. So happy to get the home game. Happy for the fans to get to enjoy that game. Unfortunate that I can't check it out. I was this close to figuring it out, depending on where they landed. I was like, if the game's on Sunday, I might be able to check out the game. Saturday, probably too much to ask. Monday probably wasn't going to work out, which selfishly I was thinking, well, if they drop to 6 and play Dallas, then maybe that can work out. But then Dallas is playing on Monday when I would have been in California for work, so that wouldn't have worked out anyway.
No, you couldn't be selfish for that.
I get to miss it. I am sad that I missed it, but excited for everyone else to get that home playoff game because that's huge. You know, there's nothing like a home playoff game and the magic that happens there. You know, I always think back, speaking of Houston, the lights out game. You know, how much fun that game was. Just everyone's excited.
What year was that? Was that 11? No,
2011. Was
it 11?
Okay. It was.
No, because they didn't play them in the.
It was 2010 then. It was 2010.
Yeah, it was 2010. Yes.
2010. Yeah.
Because it wasn't in the Western Conference, or it wasn't in the MLS Cup, and MLS Cup was 2011 and 2012 was both Houston, the whole deal. But yeah, the lights went out multiple times, if I remember correctly. And so it's one of those things, and everybody was like, oh. And then I think there were jokes being made about, you know, what's the scariest thing a Houston Dynamo fan ever see is a flashlight, because, you know, so there was like, oh yeah, well, you know, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on that way. I wanted to say this. Let's give away 2 tickets to the game. Should we give away 2 tickets to the game?
Oh wow, I didn't even know that was an option. Let's do it.
You're not eligible anyway, so I don't know why it would matter.
Fair enough.
One of our listeners, Manny, reached out to me and said, I have 2 extra tickets. I would like them to go to some of your listeners. Give them away. All right. So I'm giving away 2 tickets to the game on Saturday. I forget where they're. He says they're not the best seats, but if you're in the building anywhere at Dignity Health Sports Park, you pretty much have just fine seats, right? I mean,
you hear that all the time, like there's not a bad seat in the house. There really isn't a bad seat at the house. You know, even in the 200 section, some people actually prefer that because you get a great view of the field. Yeah, so there really isn't a bad seat in the house.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I like the chat room dibs. I like how there's the thing.
Is that how we're playing? Yeah.
Yeah. To keep it as easy as possible for me, and I have a busy day tomorrow, so I want to make sure I want to get these tickets out tomorrow. Go ahead and email me at cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. Just tell me that you want the tickets. I'm going to put everybody into a random draw, and we're going to pick a random number, and I'm going to notify the person tomorrow. So send me an email, cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. Say, I want the tickets. I will put your name in there. Make sure you have your first name, your last name, and your email. Well, you're emailing me, so I'll have your email address. That's fine. We can figure that. But absolutely,
write it in there anyway.
Yeah,
just to be safe.
Just in case you want a different email to send the tickets to. That's why. Send me the email that you want me to send the tickets to, because I have like 3 email addresses, and I only the tickets.
Which one's connected to your access?
Exactly. So let's do that. Okay, cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. We'll give out those 2 tickets. 1 lucky person will get to go to those games. And thank you to Manny. Big shout out for allowing that to happen. $2 super
shout out to Manny.
$2 super chat in living color abroad. Vani needs massive credit for Brugman. I mean, whoever found Brugman, and Vani's been apparently. I talked to the Panda, and Panda was down there talking to Greg Vani and Jovan Karofsky and Chris Klein, and he was going over a bunch of stuff. So I talked to him a little bit. Got some lowdown on some of the things that were going on, but apparently, according to Brugman and according to Vani, is that those guys had been looking at each other and they knew of each other for years. Like the last couple of years, they were basically like, Greg is like, I'm going to get you, and you're going to come on my team.
You will be mine.
What
movie is that? Yeah, Wayne's World.
It may be. Maybe it is. Yeah, I'm already getting emails. I very much like that this just flows right in. It's very good. But he was, that was a long term sort of like, I want that guy on my team. Nikki K asked, I think, Greg Vani about Ricky Push today, and said, when was the first time you remember sort of seeing his infectious energy? And we all thought it would be like, whenever he came out to training the first time. That's what I think whenever you told deal. Greg's like, man, I've been watching him since he's been playing with Barcelona, and he was like the next Iniesta and all this other stuff. And he goes, I always watched him play and being like, man, look at this guy. Look at how energetic he is and the whole deal. So you can go watch the full media availability on cornerofthegalaxy.com. That's not even true. Go to the YouTube, because I haven't put it up on cornerofthegalaxy.com because I didn't have a chance to yet. But it's up on our YouTube channel. You can watch 30 minutes of Greg Vani, Chicharito, and Ricky Bush talking ahead of the playoff game.
And I'll say the Galaxy have been putting out videos of like players saying, we're looking forward to seeing you at the stadium. I think they had one with Raheem Edwards. They had one with Jonathan Bond. Chicharito's had one. And they did one with Ricky today. And speaking of just like his infectious energy, he just opens up with, hey, my G's. And it's just like, you just smile. It's like, this guy, look at this guy.
Look at this.
It's just, look at that guy. And it just gives you that feeling like, I want to hang with this guy. I want to follow this guy. His infectious, like him just opening that video and saying that, you're like, oh, all right, I'm with this guy. This guy's part of my team. And it feels good. It's such a silly thing and something that you can't measure or really put into words, but it's important to team chemistry. Being part of teams and growing up all my life, there's guys who maybe it's not necessarily on the field, but there's guys who kind of you're glue guys and kind of keep everything going. And Ricky seems to be one of those guys, but he also brings and backs up the play on the field on top of it. So that's like the best of both worlds. So if you haven't checked out that video of him asking, fans to come to the stadium, it'll make you smile. It'll put a smile on your face.
Yeah, it will be. He's an interesting dude. Like the energy that he gets is just, it's a different sort of level. I mean, listen, he's changed the way the Galaxy play 100%, right? And there's going to be some talk about newcomer of the year, which he was nominated for. Listen, don't ever expect sports writers to be brave about like picks and suggestions. Ricky probably should win that award, okay? But he was here for such a short. It's not even like he came at the beginning of the transfer window, right? He was more like middle to end of the transfer window, whenever he came in. So you're talking about a guy who got like 11 games, all right? Like that's it. And it's really hard in a 34 game season to put somebody as the newcomer of the year that had that. But in 11 games, he was hands down the newcomer of the year. I mean, you can't really compare it to anybody else, I don't think. But he's not going to be nominated. He's not going to win that award, and that's okay. But at the same time, know in your hearts that you are correct in everything you watch with Ricky Push. He is the newcomer of the year as far as anybody should be concerned.
Yeah, that's fair. And if we want to have our tinfoil hats on, if you're MLS and you're saying this guy played 11 games and he's the best player that is the newcomer, that kind of almost counterintuitively looks like a mark on MLS. Like, how was this guy able to be the best in the league in 11 games, which he has been? But I don't think the league is ever going to let that fly. But also, we have eyes, we know what we're seeing. But at the same time, you reward the people who have been here for a full season and have been consistent. So I don't have a beef with it. But we know what we've been watching, and we've been watching a guy who has been the best newcomer to MLS this season. Yeah,
he could be an MVP candidate next year, like that type of thing. So just understand that that's sort of where it's going. One of the updates, and a big shout out to Damian Calhoun. By the way, Damian was the guy who put as his vote was Ricky Puig as newcomer of the year. He published that out there and said, "This is my vote for newcomer of the year." So he wasn't afraid. All right, but he gets to see it. Right, it's like not everybody gets to see it, like, and you're like, oh, this is clear and obvious, right? And one of those, you don't need VAR for Ricky Puig, all right? That's how it goes. Nelson gave us a $2 super chat. Do we know if Mark Delgado is back in training? Yes, we do know. He got smacked apparently in the back of the neck, and a big shout out to Damien because I texted him and said, I'm not going to be there. Ask about Mark, and he's like, yeah, I was already going to do that. I'm like, oh, of course you were. Mark Delgado apparently got smacked or hit the back of his neck. And his vision got a little blurry for a second. Mark has not had the easiest of seasons whenever it comes to his head, his vision, and his brain, and everything else. Now, I'm told there's no concussions, but there may be, and they're quick to say no on this. And so I should preface it by saying this is an opinion of mine, not a direct knowledge of anything or inside knowledge of anything. But some people, after they have COVID, get like foggy brains and like it's difficult to concentrate and some stuff like that. And Mark had COVID, and ever since, like there's been stuff that has sort of been around that. So I don't know. They're managing it. He's fine. Greg said he was back in training. He'll be fine. Greg said everybody, as far as he knows, is absolutely fine. Victor Vasquez did leave training early today. Apparently, he got like a knee in the back or a knee in the butt. He used like the gluteus maximus thing, but that's the butt. So he either got like a knee, and you know how that's like a dead leg, or like if they hit you in the back.
It's not going to put him out of a game. Yeah.
No, but you're not gonna enjoy it. So yeah, so that's sort of what it is. So I mean, overall. And I would like to point out, we have not been giving injury updates on this podcast for like...
I was going to say, knock on wood.
Yeah, right? Like
because that's not because of you're not doing your job. It just...
There hasn't been any.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to talk about all that much, right? And so that's kind of incredible whenever you think of what had happened previous years and everything else and under GBS. And I mean, good Lord.
There maybe is someone out there who's, sacrificed a goat and a rooster and a hen and 7 eggs, and kind of done that, whatever magic recipe there is to get the injuries off of the LA Galaxy. So, whoever's out there doing those healing mixtures, I'm all for it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to check out the Galaxy's replies on Twitter, because there's someone who's all over it with some of those things.
If you're worried that nobody has the voodoo part of the whole playoffs
don't say
covered,
that. Yeah, we're not saying that's what it is. It's just
I'm just saying,
just really cares about the Galaxy.
Clearly, and they've been clearing the mojo, I guess, of the LA Galaxy, right? Yes.
Yeah, but back to Markey.
Excuse me, you get out.
Excuse me,
That's
Marcus,
right. Grown man.
Marcus the third. The unsung hero is Mark Delgado, because I've been singing the praises from the rooftops of Brugman and Puig, but Delgado's been solid. He's been in there. He's kind of right pace for pace with Brugman and Ricky, and kind of being that, that kind of defensive mid that you need, providing the cover for those guys to allow them to do their thing pushing forward. And he doesn't necessarily get all the credit, but that's kind of the nature of that role. You need someone who's going to do the dirty work and not necessarily get the accolades. And just got to give the shout out now that he absolutely deserves the accolades for kind of hanging in there and being a solid part of that triangle that's been working out in the midfield. That, he's a huge part of that recipe, and you want to wish him the best health possible, because you're right, he's been unlucky with whatever's going on with head injury, face, whatever's going on with there. You can tell he's had some struggles. So, wishing him the best. And it's scary. And again, like you said, they're denying anything, but just with some of the concussion news that we've seen recently in sports, you hope they take, it is what it is, and those things happen. It's the nature of the game, but you also want your players to not put themselves at a risk that's going to, affect them long term. So wishing them well and hoping that everything's all right.
It's funny because you get to know the guys after you talk to them for long enough. You sort of get their personalities, the whole deal. We get to talk to Mark Delgado before the Houston game, so before they left for Houston last Thursday. So I got to talk to him face to face. And Mark is very much, in the nicest way possible. Please do not take this as a negative. I don't take it as a negative, and obviously I think it's like whenever we talk to him, it's very clearly, man, I could be doing soccer things right now, and instead I have to talk to you guys. I'm gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna do it, but I just want to do my job and not have to talk to you, right? And again, the nicest way. He answers every question, and he's super nice about it. But it's like I respect him for that particular, to come and talk to us, do his job. Like, yes, this is part of my job. I'm doing it, but I would much rather just be watching film, or I'd be back out there, or I could
grinding.
Yeah, exactly. It's and he wants to do it quietly. And he doesn't I don't think he wants the highlights. I don't think he wants the one of the problems I think with him in the Revelis and midfield is that Mark Delgado was too big of a piece in there, right? That you had to rely on him as being the guy. Now that you have Brugman and you have Puig in there, you forget about Delgado. And forget
about Ryan Revelis. And
right.
That's a great point, because I liked him.
Right.
Obviously, kind of the bloom was off the rose, but I was bummed to see him go. But now it's Ryan who? What happened? Was that guy on the team? Doesn't matter. Yeah, that has completely been a thought of the past. Asking players like Mark or like Ryan to do things that maybe were out of their comfort zone. We now have people who do that job, and they're set in that role.
And now Mark can go do his little thing all quiet
He can do
in
what
there.
he's paid to do. Yeah.
So, and the best thing is, if you think about Nashville is going to sit here and they're going to be like, we need to have a plan for Ricky Puig. We need to have a plan for Gaston Brugman. And then they forget. They don't put, they forget for a second.
Marky sneaks in there.
Mark is there, and
Mark
he's,
is.
yes, that's two. Yeah, you're going to get a red card here pretty soon.
Please,
By the way,
persistent infringement, I believe, is what they call it.
that is. Tim gave us a $2 super chat. Says Ricky is a winner, never worried when Houston scored. I mean, you're now afforded that, not worried, right? You're allowed. If that happens,
we wouldn't. Yeah,
yeah. If that happens 10 games earlier, you're like, well, game's over. Thanks so much for playing. I mean, we've gone over the stats of what happens whenever the Galaxy score first versus when they get scored on first. It's not good, right? They did in their entire 34 games, and I think they got scored on first in 14 or 15 of the games. They only won 2 of those games, and I think they drew another 2. So only 4 of those games did they actually come back
get results,
and get a result in. And that win against Houston was more of an aberration, I think, than Greg Vani would like to point out, because he talked a little bit. He goes, we're doing things now that we weren't doing, like we came from behind to win games, and we're doing all. It's like, pump the brakes. You did it once, and in a span where you didn't lose, and I like that, but still, there's something there.
And against a Houston team, which is not a playoff contender, cream of the crop of the league, you do your job, because the Galaxy has not put away those teams historically in recent years. So happy that they're able to take care of the teams below them. But we also, let's take into consideration that they were not playing, a Champions League side.
That's right. SPQR Prof gave us a $10 super chat. Says, thanks for all you do on COG. This is such a great show. See you at the game. I will. I mean, as long as I don't get COVID or the flu, I will be there.
We are saying all the taboo topics there. I'm glad we're protected by whatever voodoo is going on out there. Yeah.
I would like to point out, I was not at training today, and that's good, because with all whatever I got, you don't want to
pass that on.
No,
yeah,
you don't want
to our players, nonetheless.
Yeah. By the way, Cabral's son, one of my favorite accounts in the in our chat room here. Which, by the way, if you're not, just every once in a while, catch the live show. If you don't get to catch the live show and jump into the chat room, it's way more fun than I make it seem, because I don't say like 99% of what's going on in the chat room. But Cabral basically said, "Is Ricky Puig the greatest signing ever in the history of the LA Galaxy?" And I think we have a long way to go before anybody's passing Robbie Keane, right? Because Robbie Keane to me is the best.
He's
best
the gold
signing.
standard.
Yeah.
Well, is Zlatan in that? Well, I think you go to the Cups for Keane, but how do you define best player that the Galaxy
exactly
signed?
No,
yeah.
don't. Yeah, that's subjective. This is what allows us to argue.
11 games.
11 games.
You can make a case that has the potential to be, but
Right.
we're not there yet.
Right. I need
Fair
to
question. The fact that it's a fair question tells you all you need to know.
in 11 games. It's a fair question. I am trying to find this. One of our listeners, Roger, hit me up on Twitter on a DM and was like, "Hey, I have this theory." And this is one of somebody in the chat room says, my theory is that Kevin Cabral is a spark for the LA Galaxy. When he comes on, I say this all the time, which is it's the weirdest thing in the world. He'll come on and all of a sudden there'll be 3 breakaways. Like, there weren't any breakaways, and now there are 3 breakaways. And Kevin Cabral gets them and he misses all 3 of them, but there weren't any breakaways and he gets 3 as soon as he comes in, right? So Roger was like, is there any plus or minus stat that you could see, like the Galaxy are plus goals or minus goals whenever Cabral is there? Because Roger's hypothesis was that Kevin Cabral was a spark too. So he actually figured it out. Let's see. My theory was wrong. He is minus 0.16.
I was going to say he started a lot of games and the Galaxy went down on a lot of those. So I would have guessed that he ends up in the minus. I understand the heart of what he's getting at. And it's almost like you look at 2 Galaxy teams, really. You have the one for the first third of the season and then one for the last third of the season. It's almost like they're completely different teams. I would wager that in, the post Ricky Brugman era, that he probably is in the plus sign. And I'd venture out, and I don't want to completely break the chat here, but Efrain's another one of those guys. At the beginning of the season,
he was a minus guy. He's probably a plus guy.
Yeah, but at the beginning of the season, when you are asking him to be the starter, to be the cam, to be a full 90-minute winger, it's maybe too much. The weight was a little too heavy there. But when you ask him to come on as a sub and be a spark and to dot a few passes and to make a connection with your attackers, I think he's absolutely a weapon coming off the bench. Given the struggles that he's had and kind of some of the not so loving remarks that he gets on from some co-hosts on this show and some people in the chat here, but I think he absolutely is a weapon in this playoff run. So I think Cabral,
Mr.
Efrain,
October, Mr. October.
Jovic. I think those are your three who when you need something to happen, those are your three who you're gonna lean on.
Kevin Cabral is going to be Mr. October. That'd be
fantastic.
Let's
put that into the world.
Him and Mike McGee. By the way,
Mike McGee had some solid regular seasons though, so that's not even right to throw him in the same breath.
But he is
pump the brakes.
But whenever the playoffs came about, Mike McGee was like, oh, now we're here to play. Okay.
But Mike McGee wasn't an absolute liability during the regular season, is all I'm saying.
So if there is anybody who has been listening to this show from the very beginning, there's a Mike McGee story that has been told many times over the years, but this is a 2009 story, like from back in the original days. I was the biggest Mike McGee hater ever in the history of haters. I was like, Mike McGee, he sucks, blah, blah, blah. And I used to just rail on him like, this guy is horrible. And then that 2009 playoff run came in and Mike McGee became the best player ever in the history. I'm like, oh, he's Mike McGee. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now. The whole deal. And
that's different. Oh, that Mike McGee. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that's a different guy.
They were doing a jersey reveal on top of the Grammy Museum. All right. I was there for it. And I went there and I got to talk to Mike McGee and I got to say, hey, man, yeah, I'm an idiot. I've been saying that you suck for all this thing. And he's just looking at me, shaking his head, right? The whole deal.
You didn't have to disclose
No, I didn't have to say it. And I go, I was so wrong. He's like, oh, man. He's like, no, that's part of your job. I like how he pretended like it was a job. I like how anybody pretends this is my job. But he's like, that's your job. Like the nicest guy in the world. And we've had him on the show a couple times since. But no, just there is that actually happened. I had witnesses that came with me to see me talk to Mike McGee and be like, I was an idiot. Nice. So yeah, that's a good thing there as well. By the way, Grant Serra is a plus 0.56 whenever he's on the field. Okay. Plus, so he's on the plus side. Not by a lot, but he's a plus side.
I think some of that has to do with not being a full-time starter. I think over the course of the full season, a lot of those players who started those games are going to end up in the minus just in the nature of some of the games that the Galaxy have played. Although they end up with a +7 goal differential. So kind of it's one of the better years that the Galaxy have had looking over the last 4 or 5.
It's absolutely
in the plus with the goal differential. What's that all about?
It is. Let's see if I can pull up the goal differential. Do I have I thought I pulled the goal differential chart from Monday, but I remember on Monday I was like, "Where's my goal differential chart?" Yeah, I didn't. I guess apparently I didn't.
Yeah, good times. That's my bad for not prepping.
Yeah, that's okay.
We were 2 minutes late, and
it is a +7.
I didn't warn you for the.
You were right. It was +7, but like +7 is one of the better goal differentials I think since 2016, if I remember.
That sounds right.
But because 2019, which is when the Galaxy were -1.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So yes. Yes, absolutely, 100%. All right, good. Glad we're talking ourselves in circles. I wanted to get to one more thing before we sort of shift into Nashville and some of these other things that are going on. It's the off-season roster building events. And the only reason I bring this up is I promised after Monday's show we would not be as positive as Monday. Because Monday was way too positive. There was there's unicorns and rainbows over there. There was some people feeling good on the good juice, right? Like there's a lot of happiness coming out of there's optimism. There's the LA Galaxy are an MLS Cup contender. This is crazy. How did we get here? It's Ricky, it's Gaston, like all these things. So there was a lot of that. So let me just crash you down to earth. If the Galaxy lose on Saturday, they will be out of the playoffs. And remember, there is a winner in this game. You will play 90 minutes. If it's still tied after that, you'll go to extra time. If it's still tied after that, you will go to penalty kicks. There will be a winner. There's no aggregates. You don't get to go play Nashville in Nashville. There's no away goals rule. None of that. Yeah, it is straight up one game.
By 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you will know the Galaxy's fate. But way to bring it down about the possibility of it being done. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be very honest. If the LA Galaxy go to penalty kicks, you might as well start counting the postseason stuff, right? I mean, get your roster out and try to figure out who's staying.
I'm going to zag.
You can zag all you want.
Go the other direction.
You're like, they got this.
They're due, yeah.
Of course. I was going to say Scott French, who is famous for whenever he comes into any game that could possibly have extra time, he will say, you know what I'm rooting for? No extra time, because it's like, get it done in 2 hours. Let's go. Let's roll this. Trade windows open Monday, November 7th. Okay, so basically you're on a 2-month roster freeze right now, and so on the 7th you're able to go ahead and trade and do some things and move some things, right? So you're going to be able to move players right before they close it again at 12 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 9th, and now you're into the blackout period, right? You're into the everything freezes, nobody move. Okay? Just in case, again, you were wondering, and just to remind everybody that once you get knocked out of the playoffs, roster decisions come quickly because there are teams who are not in the playoffs that are making roster decisions right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that in the last few seasons when the Galaxy have been out of the playoffs. I've always thought, and they're already making moves. Where was the offseason? There are already dates and things happening. And I always thought, what's it like for those playoff teams, that have to be doing these things concurrently with having a season still going on? And now we get to be one of those teams.
Yeah. So you still have stuff going on. So that's Wednesday, November 9th is the trade window closes and the blackout period begins. Thursday, November 10th, expansion protected list. Remember St. Louis coming in. We're getting an expansion draft on Friday, November 11th. November 14th is your club deadline to submit bona fide offers. That's stupid. We'll talk about that whenever it comes. Club deadline to exercise options is on Monday, November 14th, and that's where the bona fide offers comes in. All roster decisions will be publicized by the individual clubs, so you'll watch from the LA Galaxy on that. Wednesday, November 16th, free agency opens, so that's whenever free agents will get around. The LA Galaxy are suddenly a team that is playing much better. This will give Greg Vani an opportunity to get some of these free agents and get them over to the LA Galaxy in either a depth role or into like some of these like guys who are going to play more minutes but necessarily might not be starters, or he's going to find a starter within MLS that is a free agent. The Galaxy can now, I think they have a much better argument of come play for us, we're on the up. Right? We're just missing a couple pieces. Come play with us. All right?
It's a much more attractive place to come now than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So free agency opens on Wednesday, November 16th. Thursday, November 17th is reentry process, which is stupid. Then you have the end of the year waivers that's on that same day. Tuesday, November 22nd, reentry process stage 2, which is more stupidity. And then you had the MLS College Showcase, which is between December 8th and December 12th. And then you have the MLS Super Draft. The 2023 MLS Super Draft will take place on Wednesday, December 21st. So actually, the Super Draft is on this side of Christmas and New Year's. Isn't it normally after?
I want to say it's before Christmas.
Is it?
No,
it's after, isn't it?
But I thought they were getting rid of the Super Draft altogether. I thought that was done. I thought we were moving away from the college draft, but apparently not.
I'm trying to see if it's going to be,
or maybe it's like in the final. Maybe they're phasing it out, and eventually,
I don't know.
It's not going to be there anymore.
It's still there right now. Don't ask.
Still a thing.
Don't ask questions.
And when we talk about like everyone's here, it's the playoffs. You get a lot of people. 140 people live right now. The MLS Super Draft preview show. That's the show you want to listen to. That's when you go deep into guys from Indiana and Akron. It's like who's going to be the player who makes the impact. I'm telling you, those are the shows you want to listen to.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the off-season shows usually are the easiest ones because there's no real, there's no concrete show to do, right? There's you can do whatever you want.
Although you will hear names like, Chris Mueller was one that I remember previewing. There are some names that you hear out on there that actually end up panning out, but they'd never end up with the Galaxy. Andre Shindishiki, another guy who's kind of killed the Galaxies in Charlotte now. These names that are you're like, where did this guy come from? If you listen to the show, the Super Draft show, that's where you get the download on that information.
Yep, absolutely. Keep talking for a second. I have to answer a text message. I
was going to say, well, we got some super chats if you want me to address those.
Do the super chats.
Yeah, we got Alex Diaz in the chat saying, if the rumors are true about Suarez coming after the World Cup, how do you think Vani will be able to put him and Chicharito on the pitch at the same time? Will he be willing to switch to a 4-4-2? So
can I interrupt you for a second?
I was going to say, you asked me to vamp and then you interrupt me?
Yeah,
sir, I'm speaking.
I know.
Yeah. No, go for it. It's your
Excuse me, sir. This is a Wendy's. Suarez rumors. There's something there. I just wanted to point out that there's something there. That's based on some information. There's something there. How much is there? I think there's probably a significant amount there. So I would not be surprised if in the future Luis Suarez is on the LA Galaxy. I just want to point out. Now, does that mean that it's 100? No, it's not 100%. Is it 80%? No, I don't think it's that. But
it's not zero.
It's not zero, and it's probably above 50. Right. So we're in that sort of mood. Well, I don't know what that means and how they're going to do it and what roster thinks that's above my pay grade right now. But there's something there to Luis Suarez. But
I will say that there have been players on the show, aka Martin Caceres, who we said, no, he's not coming. And then by the end of the show, he's signed. So the fact that you're not saying he's not coming says something right there. As far as will Vani be willing to go to a 4-4-2, I think if you agree to bring Suarez. You're not going to bench Suarez. You're not going to bench Chicharito.
4-3-3.
So you need to have him on the field at the same time. So I don't know if 4-4-2, but maybe you play Suarez on the wing and you go 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I think I saw someone in the chat. You have Costa on one side, Suarez on the other. Now that really puts a lot of work on your defenders, and I don't know if you're going to have Edwards and Araujo booming forward. Like
Julian's going to want to go to anywhere, so he doesn't have to run as much as he's going to have to run with Luis and Douglas Costa out there.
You're going to have to pray that Sega Koulibaly is just going to hold it down as the single center back there, as everyone else just bombs forward. So I think if you bring a player like him in, you're not going to bench him. So Vani, whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to find a way, whether it's 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. To get them out on the field.
I really like, and by the way, I agree with this. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happens on Twitter or something where people are like, "Hey, man, Luis Suarez is coming. Just trust me. Just trust me, bro." Right? The whole deal. I think, and somebody goes, "Source, just trust me, bro." In this particular case, yes, that is your source. You just trust me. I'm just telling you. You don't have to listen to me. It's up to you.
There's too many. It's not just one random one-off. There's a lot of different things that pop up.
I have a track record.
Conversations have to be,
I have a track record.
Have to have.
Yeah, exactly. You have to do. I mean, all this stuff has to sort of go. I love it. I did not say the Galaxy are getting there. I just said, hey, there's something there. Just pay attention. That's all.
Yeah. And then we had one more super chat from Gabriel Lopez. Says, all I'm saying is that we were promised an epic Eric Vieira game preview if we made the playoffs. Kind of fitting that I got to read the super chats during this section. So all I have to say is, Gabriel, hold on to your horses. It may be happening. It's probably happening. It's happening. Oh, now? No, sir.
No.
Yeah. You can bank on it. We're prepped. We're ready to go. I even rehearsed it a little bit, just because it's been so long. I wanted to make sure that the pipes still work.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you don't come up with these on the fly?
Sir, have you listened to any of these? Yeah.
Sir, I'm just saying. You're pulling the curtain back too quickly. All right. This is like Oz,
All right, hold on. I gotta mentally clear my mind, sacrifice a goat, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that popped up today, Soccer America talked about it. They talked about the crowd count. MLS attendance tops 10 million for the first time. Eric, how do you get to 10 million? You keep adding expansion teams. That's how you get to 10 million.
Yeah, and expansion teams that play in football stadiums. That also helps.
Yep. If you look at the overall attendance, by the way, it was 10,011,578 was the total fans, which gave an average of 21,033 over 476 games. We keep talking about soccer growing in America. There is a reason to talk about it. There's also, I think, some signs on here, and Soccer America points out there's some worries in this chart as well. But bottom line is that you're starting to outdraw the NBA, you're starting to outdraw the NHL, and it comes on the fact that, one, you have some bigger stadiums, right? So you're always going to do that. And if I asked you who the number one on the list was, who's the number one on the list?
For most attendance?
For average attendance. Highest average attendance.
I have to think it's going to be Atlanta, just the size of their stadium.
47,116, which is actually down, by the way. So I think it's down from...
they had a down season, yeah.
Yeah,
and that holds 70,000, so...
Yeah, I think
that's not a full stadium for them.
They're still getting almost 50,000 for every game.
Which is it's still great. Yeah, thank you. I'd take 46,000 as average all day long. Is Charlotte near the top?
Charlotte 35,260, right? Seattle at 33,607, Nashville 27,555, Toronto at 5th with 25,423, Portland at 6th with 23,841, and the LA Galaxy at 22,841.
Which I'll say the real list starts at Nashville because that's a soccer-specific stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have an inherent advantage when you're in a football stadium. So big shout out to Nashville. Sorry to what we have to do to you this weekend, but that's where the real list starts. Yeah,
you can sort of see that. Let's see, LAFC 9th, 22,089. I think that's max sellout for their stadium. They claim a lot of sellouts. Let's put it that way.
Sellout is the proper term. Yeah. Emphasis there. Yeah.
New England 21,000. So if I asked you who was the bottom, who's the 28th in average attendance?
By my same metric, I'd go with smallest stadium team that's not very good. I'd go with the San Jose Earthquakes.
San Jose is 26th, not 28th. They average 15,260. Colorado averages 14,473.
Colorado. Okay, that makes sense.
And then 28 is Inter Miami.
Miami has a small stadium also.
12,637. Okay. All right, and they sucked for a while. Now they're in the playoffs. What do you know?
They're back, baby.
They're back.
They're there.
They're there for the first time. They're there. So it's it's definitely some interesting stuff in here. They were talking about, the good news, which is despite failing to make the playoffs, Atlanta United led again, but they were down from 53,000 in 53,000 in 2018 and 52,000 in 2019. In its first season, Nashville averaged 27, right? We talked about that. An MLS record, 12 teams average more than 20,000 fans a game. Of Europe's big five leagues, only the Premier League and Bundesliga have more teams with averages of more than 20,000 fans a game this season. They have 18 teams each instead of the 12 that MLS has. So let's see. I'm trying to see the bad news. Of the 15 teams that saw a decrease in attendance, 7 had drops of more than 10%. And let's see, I'm trying to see, contributing to the overall decrease of 3.7% in average attendance among the 24 teams that played in 2019. So 2019 was the last non-restricted season, no COVID issues, that type of thing. So all this is sort of being looked at 2019. So they're on the back on this upward trend. So basically the news is mostly good. But again, whenever you keep adding teams, it helps you out to keep getting these averages and sort of continue to increase them. But still a little bit shaky. We're going to see how all this comes with a World Cup coming in the middle of the offseason and what that means for the 2023 season for everybody. I think there's going to be a bump. And then obviously we're leading to 2026. And so that keeps going. So how many teams do we think we're going to end up with? I know Don Garber says 30, but we know he's not telling the truth. So is it 32?
That sounds right. I think you get, 16 and 16. You get 30 games a season. They're not going to give up 34 games. So maybe if you get 17 games, 18 and 18 gives you 17 games and 17 games. And maybe that is where you finally land is 36, when you get your conferences and you keep 34 games. Right. That's a lot of teams, though. That's a lot of teams. That makes it really and you're never going to touch the East Coast teams if you make it that big. I think 30 should be the cap. You look at other leagues around the United States. I don't think it should exceed 30. I think we're pushing it right now at 20. What are we? 28 right now.
28 right now.
Yeah, and then if you're going to add St. Louis, you need to add one more after that.
St. Louis is 29. They'll be St. Louis will be in the Western Conference. Nashville will go back to the Eastern Conference.
I was going to say fun times. Good old Western St. Louis. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to get that. You get an unbalanced league again, right? So it's going to be, that's why you're going to play LAFC 3 times, which of course just have the Galaxy and LAFC play each other until nobody can do anything, right? So
yeah, that's going to be the other weird thing. Them playing, I thought we were away from 3 times in a season, but we just somehow can't get away from it. Fun times.
All right, I'm officially not on baby duty anymore. Congratulations, we made it.
Nice.
Good
Well
job,
done.
everybody.
Congrats, we did it.
So so this is just keep an eye on all of this stuff as it sort of goes along. St. Louis coming in, Las Vegas I think is one of those. San Diego could be one. Sacramento is still, they needed some ownership issues. So there's still some teams out there that are coming in here, and we'll get to those whenever they eventually come through.
I saw it in the chat. Richard Greenberg said MLS 2. Then you get promotion relegation.
They're never going to do promotion relegation. That's not happening.
Fun times.
Let's see. One of the things I also wanted to talk about, we talked about finalists and some other different things that are going on. The landed on an MVP award today. MLS announced that Chicharito was one of 5 finalists. It was Chicho Arango from LAFC, Andre Blake from Philadelphia, Sebastian Driussi from Austin, Henny Mukhtar from Nashville, and Chicharito from the LA Galaxy. Those are the 5. Now, I know some people are confused by this. There's no revoting that's going on. We're not going to vote again. The voting's already done. The voting's already, so they know who the winner is. It's one of these 5, but basically these are the top 5 vote getters, right? And so, I'm going to look into my crystal ball. Chicharito's not winning this, right? Having said that, the dude is 34 years old and he scored 18 goals. He played some of the most minutes he's ever played in his entire career. Greg Vani was asked about him today. And sort of said, what does it mean that he's still putting up these numbers whenever he's, this old? And it was sort of like, he's just one of these guys who's dedicated himself to always being good. And if you didn't see what happened after the 2020 season between 2020 and 2021, the changes that dude made it's inspiring.
It was one of the most fun things to watch because we saw someone at their worst, personally, professionally. Someone who had hit rock bottom, probably figuratively and literally as well, just with the things that they had going on in their life. And to see the work he was putting in and the drive and the determination, and it was a Rocky Balboa situation, someone who trained and had the montage moments, and then, was rewarded with having a very successful, bounce back season last season, and then was able to continue whatever he was doing before that. He was able to continue that this season with those 18 goals. And looking back at some of the moments throughout the season, he very easily could have had, 20, 23 goals, 22 goals. There could have been 4 or 5 more with some of the, sitters that he's missed and Panenkas and other penalties that you see. That goal total, he earned the possibility to get more. Obviously, it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't in the right position and he wasn't, putting himself in the right positions to be a most valuable player, in this league and to this team. So if you judge, this is another always fun conversation whenever you talk about MVP voting. What does most valuable player mean? Is that the best player in the league, or is it the player who's most valuable to their team? I think when you look at the roster that Nashville has, I think Hani Mukhtar could be the most valuable player to that team. And then also with the Golden Boot, maybe the best player in the league or MVP or whatever you want to call it. So that he has a case there. But when you look at the other players, I don't know that if you take them off the roster, that it's as big of an impact outside of Mukhtar. If you took them off the roster, that their team would be adversely affected. I think without Chicharito, this team really, really struggles. I know there's a lot of Dejan lovers out there, and I love him as well. But 18 goals, that's very difficult to replace. So most valuable, I don't think he's going to win, but absolutely deserving to be in the top 5. Again, just an honor to be nominated. He deserves to be on that list.
Yeah, I think Hani Mukhtar walks away with this. If we look at some of the other stuff, there's no Galaxy people, I think, who made any of the finalists and anything else. All-State Goalkeeper of the Year, I think Andre Blake is going to win that. Yeah. Defender of the Year, I have Jacob Glesnes from Philadelphia Union. They also have Kai Wagner on the Philadelphia Union, Alex Callens from New York City FC. It really is a toss-up. I still think that Glesnes for me, but that's just guess. We're not.
He's someone who haven't seen Philadelphia play often, but he's a name that always jumps out on there. And I remember when you were talking about most minutes on the field, he's played every minute of every game for a field player. That's really incredible. Yeah. So I could imagine him winning that one.
This is the one where Ricky Push should have won it, but we know why he's not going to. So we're just going to live with Newcomer of the Year. And I don't know who's going to win this. Cucho Hernandez certainly could be that way, but with them missing the playoffs,
but he also
Petrovic for New England.
Yeah. Cucho didn't come at the beginning of the season either, so that kind of makes the Ricky argument if you wanted to make it. But I'm kind of with you. I think Almada? Mm-hmm. He's someone who had an impact on that team and was a good player for Atlanta. Again, they missed the playoffs as well, so depending on how you want to.
None of these guys made the playoffs, right?
So give it to one of them,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So Petrovic is a great choice too, goalkeeper for New England. The Young Player Award, Almada, Brenner from FC Cincinnati. For me, it's probably Brenner or Ferreira, Jesus Ferreira from FC Dallas.
I think it's Jesus Ferreira. I think he's someone who he's going to get called to a World Cup because of the season that he had in MLS this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see who else. MLS Works for Humanitarian. I thought Chicha for sure would be in this. There's no way for me to pause to like.
I don't know that he had a specific. Did he have a specific? Usually, like there's a specific cause. Like I know with with Julian Araujo, he had the migrant workers. So I think while Chicharito does a lot, he didn't have that thing that like he could put a ribbon on that this is my thing. And I bet you those other players probably had something like that.
Siggy Schmidt, Coach of the Year finalist, Chirundolo, Jim Curtin, and my choice 100% Wilfred Nancy from CF Montreal. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't think it's that close. I think that Nancy walks away with it, but there's a lot of people who are trying to make points for Chirundolo, and I'm like, I get it, but no.
I think Curtin's it might be because when you look at, I could be easily swayed, I guess. When you look at how they're able to kind of, I don't know if this is a lifetime achievement award or what, but over the course of time, what he's been able to build with not having.
It's Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year. It's this year.
They were also
they were great
in the running for the Supporters Shield and had solid defenders and were without the resources. But you can make that same argument for Montreal.
But literally you could look at Montreal and be like, well, he's not going to do any good with Montreal, and Nancy's not going to be able to take that team. But he did, and so it's like whoa. So that's why for me.
Same with Kai Kamara, who's been at basically every single team in MLS except for the LA Galaxy, for him to be, producing and be a part of that, top Eastern Conference team, you can see why he's on a lot of those lists as well.
You can. Let's see. Referee of the Year finalists, Eric. Who do you have in this always hotly debated topic?
I'm going to go with a name that I don't recognize, just because if you know the name of a referee, I see Alan Chapman's name on there, so he definitely does not get my vote, because then you get into Kevin Stott territory, Mark Geiger territory. If I know your name, that's a bad sign. If I don't know your name, that means you've probably been doing your job right. Fotis Pizzacco's territory, where if I've said your name too much, then that's a problem. So
the fact that you know Fotis Pizzacos is a problem, right? I mean, that you had to memorize that. To me, it's probably Elfaf. I think could win it. I thought he actually had a really good year. I didn't have many problems with him. Villarreal, though, is the one that comes to mind as the guy I know the least. And so if we're going by your logic, then it's Armando Villarreal. I mean,
that's my vote.
All right, good. Assistant referee. If you know an assistant referee, get a life.
It gets even. I want to know the MLS heads who are like, man, Chris Elliott. When you talk about assistant referees, he just really jumps out there. What a year! What a year that he had.
I mean, Ian Anderson.
But he obviously made the list. So someone has metrics and is keeping track of this. So shout out to everyone on there.
I think you and I should talk about these three gentlemen right here on this list as if we knew. They deserve to get some positivity out of this. Like, I mean, if you've ever seen the way that Ian Anderson runs the sideline and holds the flag, I mean, he is spot on with his movements. He is always on the line. He's got the speed, he's got the technical ability, and he's quick with the flag. For me, Ian Anderson is the epitome of a great assistant referee.
Yeah, and coming into the season, Corey Rockwell, there are a lot of haters out there, didn't think he was going to be able to hold the assistant referee. They said, put him in the VAR booth. I don't know that he's ready. The stage might be too big. The lights might be too bright. But he just went out there and he just kept his head down. Kept running down that sideline. Just, what a year. What a season for Corey Rockwell. Shout out to all these guys.
Should have been in comeback referee of the year when you think about it. Chris Elliott, though, I mean, is another story. I mean, here's a guy.
He's the favorite. Yeah, everyone's going for Chris Elliott, so it's not as fun to root for him.
But you have to remember what he's gone through this year. I mean, his goldfish died early on in the season, right? He had to deal with that, all right? And then he comes back. Now, listen, this isn't going to seem like a big deal. In VAR, he got the VAR call correct. He called Alan Chapman back to the monitor, which we all know is almost impossible, right? He called him back to the monitor, and he's like, Alan, you got to listen. You got to see this. I think you missed this one. And Alan Chapman was like, yes, I did miss this. Thank you, Chris Elliott. You are a genius. And I think that's why Chris Elliott's try to turn it wrong. Chris Elliott is my guy.
I was going to say, you actually make a fair point. Whoever was the referee who, when the video went out and just said, hey, man, I know you just make the call because you missed this one. It was wrong. Whoever that guy was, that guy deserves it.
Trust me, bro.
Just trust me on this. Luis Suarez is coming, and that was a penalty.
Absolutely. Real quickly, let's go through our choices here. As we look at this bracket is set. We've talked about it. LA Galaxy in the 4, Nashville at the 5. LAFC is the number 1 in the Western Conference. Philadelphia, the number 1 in the Eastern Conference. If we were picking these games, Eric, let's go quickly because we're running out of time and I want to eventually turn this off and go to sleep. LA and Nashville, we're both going to pick LA. So let's move on.
Consider the source when you're listening to who our picks are. Yeah, I got LA taking that one.
Okay, so LA there. Dallas and Minnesota, I have Dallas.
I have Dallas as the better team there as well.
Okay, Austin and RSL, I have RSL.
RSL, I know they do this every year, but I don't think they have the goods. I think Austin takes them.
Okay, LAFC versus LA Galaxy, LA Galaxy.
Consider the source. We're picking the LA Galaxy. Yes.
Okay, then it is Dallas versus either Austin or RSL. I'm going to say that it is Dallas over either of those teams.
Okay, we have the conference finals. We're in line. There's something about the symmetry of the Galaxy beating LAFC and then Dallas beating Austin, of the legacy teams beating the newcomers. And I like that. So that I have LA and Dallas in the conference finals.
In the Western Conference final. Stop. Eastern side. We have Red Bull versus Cincinnati. I have Cincinnati. Red Bull always falters in the playoffs.
That's exactly where my mind was going. Red Bull in the playoffs. Bad news. Cincinnati's been feisty. I like them.
Okay. Philadelphia versus Cincinnati in that one. We'll just skip over to that one so we can get that bracket. So Philadelphia on the number 1. Cincinnati is the 5. Who wins that? I have Philadelphia.
Philadelphia's taking it to, I won't foreshadow too much, but yeah.
Okay.
Philadelphia's beating Cincinnati.
Okay. New York City and Miami. I have NYC.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Miami. See
okay. Yeah, exactly. Good job getting in the playoffs. Go home now. Orlando and Montreal.
See, Orlando's feisty.
Yeah,
and there's something about it, but I think Montreal will take them. Yeah. I'm with you. I have Montreal as well.
So basically New York City and Montreal, I will take Montreal.
See, I have New York City, something about defending the title. They still have, a lot of that core there. I think having been there before, I could see NYC going to the conference final. I have Philly, NYC.
Philly NYC, and I have Philly Montreal. I have Montreal coming out of the Eastern Conference upsetting Philadelphia, which is why I needed them to go past NYC. So I have Montreal, which by the way, that is a common. People are picking that. That's not something that's like an underdog story. People are picking
it's the second seed. It's not the seventh seed. Yeah,
right.
It's not that wild.
So
but I have the opposite. I have Philadelphia.
Okay.
Going to MLS Cup final. I think
so it's Philadelphia.
Most well-rounded top to bottom for the length of the season, and I think they'll be able to carry through.
It's either Philadelphia or Montreal on the eastern side, and we have Dallas and LA. So who's going through on Dallas and LA?
We haven't beat Dallas this season. We're due. I think we go to the final.
Right.
I think we make an MLS Cup final.
Yeah. The Galaxy definitely lose to Dallas. There's no way they're getting by Dallas. This is not the year. Yeah, at Dallas, it's not happening. Right. So then I'm gonna have Dallas versus Montreal. You have LA versus Philadelphia.
And I think this isn't the year. I think Philadelphia takes it in the MLS Cup final.
All
and
right.
if they were to play Dallas, they'd beat Dallas as well.
Montreal beats Dallas, Eastern Conference winner again.
So regardless of who we think the Eastern Conference.
The Eastern Conference is going to take it.
I think the top of the Eastern Conference is better than the top of the Western Conference.
So but then the middle of the Eastern Conference gets real soft, real fast, right?
Real quick, yeah. The drop off is fast, yeah.
Whereas the middle of the Western Conference is like it gets harder. In the middle of the Western Conference, right? There's not as many great teams, but there's a lot of like okay teams, right? So that's where it is. If you wanted to know what the odds were, a simple $100 bet, Mr. Vieira, could get you $1,600 should you landed on the LA Galaxy right now. That's not bad. Somebody goes, $10 gets you $160, and somebody's like, $100 gets you $1,600. I'm like, $1,000 gets you $16,000. Come on, you could buy you could put a down payment on a car with winning put $1,000 as long as you don't need it. Somebody said, I wish there was online betting in the United States, so that way I could bet my rent money on the LA Galaxy. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that.
I was gonna say there's a reason why they have those ads where it says if you need help, call this number.
Yes.
This is not a sponsored ad, so unfortunately I don't have that number for you. But don't use your rent money, please.
So we got a $2 super chat from Gabriel, and they want me to say the thing again, and I don't know how to say it. I know you tried to teach me it last time, but nor do I care. It was not one of those things I cared to remember. But for $2, no, I think I should do it poorly, and then everybody will laugh again, and then they'll be like, "What a moron that Josh is." But I'm $2 richer, so who's the moron? That's the whole thing that I sort of get into. What is it? Is it Sue?
You throw that little accent at the end.
I think it needs an accent. I think it needs an accent.
It's funny because you're saying the I isn't in there. It's just Sue, but you can say Sue, like if you hit that I.
Sue. Yeah. No, I don't.
No, still doesn't work. It's great audio. Horrible. Yeah, right into the mic there.
Good.
Sorry to everyone who has their headphones in.
Good pod. Gary gave us a $5 super chat. Says thank you guys again for a great show. I should point out Gary did that before we just did that last thing, so he's probably going to want his money back.
No refund. Sorry.
That's not how it works. I think the only thing left to do here is to get ready for Nashville. Are you ready for Nashville?
Am I ready? I was born ready.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were ready, because if you're ready, then I can be ready, and then we'll get it going. The LA Galaxy facing off against Nashville, coming up on Saturday. Here, let me pull this up just so I can do it. On Saturday, October 15th, it's a 12 p.m. Start time on TV, at 12:08 p.m. kickoff time, and we need to add Spectrum Sportsnet did indeed get picked up. I think it was because I said just pay for it, LA Galaxy.
You put the pressure
on the Monday show, and they did. So Joe and Kobe and Nikki, one more time, getting to do it in the playoffs if you want the English feed on that. Otherwise, the Spanish feed is the nationally televised. It will not be on LAGalaxy.com because it is nationally televised, so it would be blocked. But the local broadcast is on Spectrum, so if you get that, you can get it. Mr. Vieira, are you ready for said dramatic game preview?
Let's run it.
All right, here we go.
We're back, baby. Your LA Galaxy are back in the MLS Cup playoffs for the first time since 2019. And Greg Vani's boys are finally peaking at the right time. This season, we are riding on the shoulders of Chicha Dios, who is answering all of our Galaxy prayers. Leading the team with 18 goals, everyone else has changed their pronouns to he and his because they simply cannot be him. Speaking of him, let's talk about our little Spanish firecracker, Pretty Ricky Puig. Don't let his Disney Channel looks fool you, because he has been an absolute menace for the LA Galaxy since joining the team this summer. With Ricky on our squad, we're upside, inside out, we're living La Vida Loca. Speaking of getting loco, let's take a minute to appreciate our other midseason acquisition, Mr. Gaston Brugman. No one's quick like Gaston. No one's slick like Gaston. No one has quite as big, thick quads like Gaston. Almost got through that one. And he'll be looking to fire those cannons as the Digs is rocking this weekend. Since we're on the topic of the diggity, let's not forget about who'll be protecting that fortress. That's right, our beautiful Englishman, Big Bad Bondi from Big Bad Barson. I'm looking forward to Jonathan Bond to get some love in the playoffs, and here's to hoping he can stand on his head and get a long postseason run. Now to our opponents, the Kid Rock of MLS, Nashville Soccer Club. The boys from the Music City, aka Trash Vegas, they will be away from the comfort of their home stadium, Geodis Park. Geodis? How about you GODs? What does that even mean? Nobody knows, but it's provocative and it gets the people going. So this Saturday, make sure you're at Dignity Health Sports Park. Let's get hyped, let's get loud, and let's get that win as the race to SACE is back on.
Outstanding, sir. Outstanding. I even liked the little mess up in the middle. I
had the Gaston. I was right there. No one's quick like Gaston, slick like Gaston. No one's quads are incredibly thick as Gaston. It was a good line, and I flubbed it. But,
it's okay.
I got through it. That's what happens when you do it live.
It's okay. It's okay. I imagine the super chats will flood in for you now. I also imagine you'll see none of that money. So however that works, that was outstanding. I really appreciate that. That was good. And you know what? Maybe Skype has finally decided that it wants to play nicely with our previews, because in that particular case, I think it played nicely. I think we were able to accomplish that. So
I think it sounded like it wasn't cutting out too much. So good times.
It was not very good. $2 super chat from Gary. 100% there, so very good. Yeah, I know. Already doing it.
Good times.
This is such an interesting game. Galaxy and Nashville have only played each other twice. We know this. One win for the Galaxy, one draw. The win came on April 23rd. That was when the Jovic late game scramble in the box ended up going in the back of the net, and it was good passing, all the stuff that was good. But
and that was the Lars lift, right? Wasn't that when he jumped into Lars? Yeah, that
was Lars lift. So I mean, here's the thing. You can look at these games. So it was 1-0 for the Galaxy. The Galaxy had around 66% possession in that first game. They had around 67% possession in the second game. These are not games. Like, we're going to talk a little bit, and I think people have talked a little bit about how Nashville doesn't sit back as much, right? This year, they don't sit back as much. Well, at the beginning of the year, when the Galaxy played them, and the game that they played at Geodis Park, you can look at that and say not a lot changed between those two games, because the possession stats were the same. The shots were overwhelmingly in charge on the side of the LA Galaxy. 22 shots in one of them. I think 17 or 18 shots in the other one. Then you look at the expected goals, and the expected goals I don't think cracked one for the LA Galaxy on either of those, right?
Either game, yeah. And that was with penalties.
Yeah, and especially the second one, because there were two penalties in that particular one. So it's such an interesting matchup. I feel really good. Like, Nashville, I was on the Twitter Spaces for MLS Soccer talking about the Galaxy, and I heard the Nashville rep was sort of talking about Nashville, and they're like, oh, they feel good about they absolutely, there's no way that Nashville can feel good about playing the LA Galaxy. They don't get a lot of chances. They've only scored one goal, and it came from a penalty kick. Now, I mean, you can flip that and say the Galaxy missed a penalty kick, scored a penalty kick, and then had one
injury time at their house. Yeah.
Right.
I think what's got to sting Nashville is they don't get the home game also. You know, if we were in a different league where goal differential matters, Nashville actually has a +11. They're better than the Galaxy in that regard. So to lose the home game to them has got to sting a little bit, because that might be the difference. Because when these teams have played each other, you're right, they've been pretty dead even. And Nashville does have that reputation for kind of sitting back, but that's not really what they do. They definitely have a lot of talent on this roster, but they also have one guy who scores the majority of their goals. Mukhtar has 23. Their next highest goal scorer is Teal Bunbury with 5. And then Walker Zimmerman and Dave Romney are the 4th and 5th highest scorers on their team. So 2 center backs are up there. So you're not talking about a lot of offensive firepower as a whole, but if you can isolate Mukhtar, you'll be able to shut this team down, which is what the Galaxy did in both games that they played.
Yeah, and it's been super interesting to see that they were able to shut down the Golden Boot winner. They were able to play them, and I think it's because The Galaxy actually are an okay transition defense team. I know that's where they get caught the most, but lots of teams get caught in transition the most. Galaxy aren't horrible at it. And I think that Nashville lives in those transition moments. I think that that's what they thrive on. And if you watch them, Nashville just went to LAFC and beat LAFC on the last day of the season. That was a very clinical game. It was also a game that saw some incredible goalkeeping as well by Joe Willis.
Yeah,
and
that's another one we got to watch out for. Yeah, Willis.
Expect that, right? Yeah. He's done it against, I think, the Galaxy both times, which is he's stood on his head. Expect him to stand on his head again. And so the Galaxy need to not be frustrated by what happens. If the Galaxy come out, Eric, this is my concern. If the Galaxy come out like they played against RSL at home, where they were stiff
and rattled,
Nashville doesn't have to do anything with the ball. They're just going to wait for you to make a mistake. So if you're stiff, if you're rattled, if you're not flowing through the game, if Ricky isn't moving in and outside, he pops outside a little bit, he moves inside. If Bregman isn't covering his things, if Delgado's a little slow to sort of cover space and do other things, if Araujo gets caught forward, if Raheem Edwards gets caught forward, that's where Nashville sort of excels at these things. And so it's going to be managing transitions, but it's also going to be about not letting the nerves of the game get to you, and hopefully the nerves of the game get to somebody like Nashville instead.
Yeah, that's what you have to hope for. Now, I'm with you. The one pushback that I'll give is that Real Salt Lake in that game, they were playing for their playoff live, so they were going to go at the Galaxy. I think Nashville has a roster and is well coached enough that they're not going to panic and rush players forward when they don't have to. So I think the likelihood of Nashville going up early, and again, say that knock on wood, I don't think that's likely. I think this is going to be a game where the teams are going to feel each other out for the first half, and maybe if someone's going to make that chess move or that dangerous attack, it's going to be in the second half. And I think that's where we'll see, what these teams are made of in the second half, because I don't think Nashville, it doesn't benefit them to put themselves out there and put themselves in danger of getting counterattacked by the LA Galaxy to try to get that goal. Even though it is a single elimination, a one-off, you make one mistake and then you're down away, and then things can get really bad real quick. So I don't see Nashville making that push early, but that means that the Galaxy are going to have to capitalize on their chances when they get them. Because if the Galaxy don't score early, then the longer this game goes on tied, or the closer it gets to the end, then you have set pieces, corner kicks, things that happen, wacky stuff. And I think that's where, Nashville, looking at that roster, they have guys who can make you pay when you make those mistakes. So, there are a lot of teams that when we get to this part of the show, I say, I look at their roster. They don't have those players that scare me. I don't know how many times I've said that. I look at Nashville's roster. That's a good roster.
Yeah.
You have Randall Leal back there. You have Shaffelberg. You have
Schaffelberg.
Schaffelberg's been good. You have Romney. You have Lovitz, Zimmerman, and then Willis. This is a team this is a professional soccer team, and they're going to give the Galaxy some problems. It's not going to be a cakewalk, and that's what happens when you get to the playoffs. The easy teams are gone.
Yeah, this is it, and it's going to be a fun atmosphere. Gates are supposed to open 2 hours before the game, so at 10 o'clock, there's a lot of soccer fest stuff going on. Thunder sticks galore out there. First 25,000.
You get the little mini skateboards.
Yeah, but you have to be under 16. And
it's okay. I could.
Do you just lie?
16.
Should I'll shave or something?
Borrow a kid for a few seconds. You say, hey, this is my son. Yeah. It's like, who are you? Yeah. Again, don't get in trouble. There are cops probably at the game, but ask for parents' permission first. But I know we have some Galaxy employees who listen. But if a tech deck finds its way, to the northern Texas area, I wouldn't be mad at that. I do have kids. I have 2 kids.
It's for them. It's for the kids.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Do it for the children. Lars having whiskey and pancakes. I was informed the whiskey gets put into the pancake batter, which I salute you.
Yeah, Lars always knows how to have a good time. Yeah.
It's always a good time. These early ones, breakfast burritos. Somebody said, "Can you eat?" We were talking about Monday. Can you eat pupusas for breakfast? And somebody said their family considers pupusas a breakfast food, and I was like, I salute you for that stance on pupusas.
You know what? This made me really sad, really upset. I'm really enjoying, my time out here since I've moved. But you know what? I haven't a good breakfast burrito from Southern California for a 12 a.m. game, tailgate early with breakfast burritos. That is peak stuff. So, don't take for granted what you have out there if you're going to enjoy a breakfast burrito out there, because you really have something special in Southern California that you don't get anywhere else. Out here, they have breakfast tacos, but
I can go with a breakfast taco, but I know it's not a breakfast burrito.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Okay, that's good. 5:38.
Are you excited about this? Yes and no.
I don't know. If you look at it, it's not one of the higher ranked.
It's the lowest
The
one.
lowest one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite thing is looking at the slate. Out of all the teams that are favored to win, the Galaxy have the lowest expectation. So for that, anytime this happens and the Galaxy win the highest one, things go wrong. So if they're the lowest one, it has to make you feel good. Now, 66% to 34%, that's where it gets a little funky. And here, this is where it gets interesting. Here is there's no draw possibility, obviously,
Right.
With the way things. So that obviously skews the percentages higher and lower. But look at how the Galaxy have been playing, and the history where they have been able to put away Nashville. Yeah, I don't hate this percentage. I would agree that the Galaxy are favored, and the fact that they're not like super high favorites like an NYC or like an Austin over RSL, that doesn't make me as nervous because they understand that this isn't like they're playing a nobody. They're playing a solid team, in the middle, and so they're not going to go in, lackadaisical. I think they're going to go in with their shields up, being ready to go.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I have a 2/3 chance basically for the Galaxy to win. That's what this is saying. 2/3 chance. That's a lot. It feels like a lot. But I also think you're right. If you look at how the Galaxy are playing, maybe it makes some sense. If we look just at the chance to win MLS Cup, LA Galaxy currently in at 3%. I think that's way low. And again, based off of 34 games, not necessarily handicapped off of the last form. The LA Galaxy are one of the hottest teams outside of Montreal and Philadelphia coming into the playoffs. Those are facts. Last 11 games, you want to take everybody on there. Only Montreal and Philadelphia had better records. Everybody else had below records than the LA Galaxy. So if you're saying that, I think there's some positivity there. You can say, okay, the Galaxy are going to go far. So let me get to your prediction, sir. Please state whether it's in regular time, it's in extra time, or whether it goes to penalty kicks. And I would love to hear it.
I think this guaranteed to be wrong prediction, but it won't be wrong, is a 2-1 win. I think it happens in regulation. I think you see a good game. You see a hard-fought game, but I think home field will be the difference, just like it was earlier in the season. It's going to give the Galaxy that slight edge. They're going to give up a goal. I don't think the Galaxy is going to keep a clean sheet, but I think they're going to play them tight, and I think they're going to be able to break them down and get 2 goals. So I see a 2-1 Galaxy win as they move on to play the bad guys on Thursday.
I think this game is tied 1-1 at the end of 90 minutes.
Oh, I don't like that.
I think something happens in extra time. I don't know what it is. Whether it's
no
a day
penalties.
on, but I don't think it's penalties. I'm not going to go that far. I think that somebody gets it done, but I don't know whether it's day on getting a pass from Ephra as the second half subs. They got a little more juice in the legs. They're able to do it. I don't know whether that's Kevin Cabral finally finds the back of the net.
Oof,
I mean, you want to
extra
talk about in extra
Man.
time?
That'd be incredible. The one thing that makes me nervous about that is when you get into extra time, we know Vani with sub patterns that sometimes is a concern.
And
so
looking
being
for
able to time that right,
PKs.
yeah, and to know who you're going to bring in. If it's tied late in the game, you bring someone on too early and it's a close game, then they're going to be gassed a little bit later. So there really is a chess match as far as who you need to bring in and at the right time. So that's the part that makes me nervous. You want to try to kill it in regulation, which, obviously everyone wants to do that. But it really takes some the tactics really have to be on point if you're going to go take a game into extra time.
I like your 2-1. I think that this is the Galaxy are going to hover around 65% possession, 66. They're going to, in every game that they played, the Galaxy have doubled the amount of passes that Nashville's had, whether it's been at home or away. They've more than doubled them, right? So looking at all this, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Galaxy end up having 15 to 25 shots, right? And they're going to get lots of chances. It's just the quality of those. The thing is, with Ricky and with Brugman, you can get more shots from outside and they're higher quality than they have been before. It could be one of those. That could be the difference, is like a Brugman shot from deep that hits the bottom of the bar and goes in.
Yeah, which he had a post, I'm remembering correctly, he had a post shot against Houston, right? And another just banger.
That thing is still like shaking this house's foundation, some 1,800 miles away.
That's why I said no one's quads are as thick as Guest on there. But Bovada has the over-under at 2.5, so 2-1 kind of falls right in that
there.
line.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's in the
1-1,
so
2-1.
That feels 1-1, and then going into extra time, that kind of feels like, that's probably plausible. I don't think you're going to see a blowout in either direction. Of course.
Key to success for the LA Galaxy: score first, especially in this game.
Okay.
Especially if they get a first half goal.
You're right. You're right. Because if Nashville scores first and they hunker down, it's not Houston. You're gonna have a much more difficult time with Willis back there, with Zimmerman, with Romney, with Leal, with Lovitz, or it's gonna be a lot harder to break that team down than other teams. So you're right. I think if they score first, that is the key to success. And let's get Chicharito a playoff goal.
All right, I like it. I don't hate it. Let's get everybody playoff goals. Playoff goals for everybody.
Well, now,
Oprah.
yeah.
Oprah, you get a playoff
You
goal.
get a goal. Yeah, I like it.
Gabriel gave you a $2 super chat, said best one yet, Eric, on your thing. And Tim gave you a $2 super chat, says you have me pumped, Hammer. You rock, brother. Brother.
I appreciate the super chats and everyone who kind of hyped me up and got me going. But something, we talked about my, quote unquote, rehearsing a little bit, but someone in the chat said, throw Kid Rock in there. And that was, I ad-libbed that. I did. Kid Rock was not part of my original thing, but someone asked for it. I threw it in there just to prove it's not all rehearsed.
It's off the top of your head. You never know.
Why you got to be here.
Just
why you got to be here in
there.
the chat, throwing it in there. But again, appreciate everyone giving the shout outs and hyping me up in the chat.
Jeremiah says Sasha Kleshin gets his 100th assist in this game. Ooh. It won't count. Postseason is different. I know.
Not right. That's not fair.
I guarantee that. I wonder if the 100 assists is total or if it is just regular season. I'd have to check it out. Really interesting.
Question. Yeah, there you go.
That's the important thing that we need to talk about. LA Galaxy playing against Nashville SC coming up 12 p.m. October 15th. You have tickets. You're there. I have 2 tickets I'm giving away. Again, go ahead and email me. I'll pick it tomorrow. I'll email the winner, and then somebody will have tickets by tomorrow at noon is my guess. October 15th is the game. 12 p.m. is your TV start time. 12:08 p.m. is your kickoff time. Univision, TUDNA, and then, of course, Spectrum Sportsnet. All right, Kobe and Joe and Nikki. All right. I think that's it, Hammer. Are you good?
I'm excited. I'm pumped for this game. I'm excited for the fans to get to see it. I'm excited that we're back in the playoffs. It's, it's super exciting time. So I'm really on the edge of my seat, really looking forward to this Saturday. So wishing well, putting all the good vibes into the universe.
Two things before we go. One, Malia Emma singing national anthem. It's got to be good. Good and fun. Bigger than that, though. And I know some of you know this, and I'm glad the chat room reminded me because I wasn't thinking about it.
Inside. I think
this
I saw it,
this is Hot Dog Girl will be in attendance at the game. I don't know if people know about Hot Dog Girl, who started dressing up as a hot dog and going to Galaxy games when she was a lot younger. She's now like a full-grown teenager. Malia Emma is probably in college and is divorced already. No, she's not.
But she's one I've seen her fairly recently. It's like that's not the same little girl. Which the pipes she had when she sang so many years ago. Imagine how much she's grown if she's been kept. I'm looking forward to it. She's going to bring the house down.
She is.
And then Hot Dog Girl, that's such an inside thing. If you follow, some of the Riot Squad guys and you just kind of on Twitter, it's a bit of a thing. So fun times with Hot Dog Girl. She has a good record when she's at the stadium, from what I understand.
Yeah, that's my feeling as well. I think that's more of lore than probably actuality, but it feels like it is. That's
what matters. Yeah,
the bottom line,
truth doesn't matter. It's all about the lore.
Right. The bottom line is that Hot Dog Girl will be in attendance, and that is what you need to understand, that Galaxy fans are taking no chances, right? They're getting the rabbit's feet, right? They're having their whiskey and pancakes. They're getting their pupusas. They're doing all the things they're doing in order to ensure wins. And one of the things was to make sure that Hot Dog Girl got her butt in the stadium, got her buns in the stadium.
Man, how did you miss that?
I don't know. There. It was right there. And as soon as I said it, I was like, wait a minute. No, let's go back. She's going to be in the stadium. So Galaxy fans are pulling out the stops. It's time the LA Galaxy do that as well. I think that does it. This is fun. I hope everybody has a great time. Go enjoy yourselves. There is a chance of rain, right? Anywhere between 47 and 51% on Saturday. That's a pretty good flip a coin stat there. We'll see whether or not it comes in. It seems like it's going to be scattered if it does, but enjoy the rain if the rain does come, because sometimes playoffs and the rain, there's nothing better. All right. So
see, now you're making me even more excited, making me sad that I'm missing out, because imagine Dejan Joveljic subbed on in the rain, sliding across the field, soaking. I mean, there are some things that I can't say on this show because we're
NC-17. Give me a break.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Man, good
Very good. All right. That does it for us. Again, the LA Galaxy facing off against Nashville coming up. MLS Cup playoffs. Round 1, first home playoff game since 2016. October 15th, 12 p.m., 12:08 p.m., Univision, TUDNA, and Spectrum Sportsnet. Eric, please tell people where they can find you.
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You could also follow me on Instagram at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL. And then shout out to Team USA in the Liga G World Cup. Hopefully the Galaxy and USA in real life do better than we did in that tournament.
If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Videos, podcasts, all that fun stuff is right there. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, turn on the notifications, all that fun stuff. We certainly appreciate you in the chat room. We appreciate you listening, and we appreciate all of you as we're going to see out at the stadium on Saturday. LA Galaxy, Nashville, Round 1 MLS Cup playoffs coming from Dignity Health Sports Park on Saturday. All right, for Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.